Hey everyone, imagine a team teetering on the verge of a transformative breakthrough surrounded by contentious decisions, unpredictable returns, and dominant personalities that polarize both fans and pundits. While the spotlight shines on seemingly minor choices with the potential to redefine an entire season, the undercurrents behind the scenes are teeming with maneuvers that could revolutionize the destiny of a storied NFL franchise. At the heart of it all lies the question no one dares to answer. But first, be sure to hit that like button and join me as I unravel the entire story. The 2025 NFL season is at the doorstep, and if you think the Cleveland Browns are charging in at full throttle, think again. What if I told you that beneath the surface lies a tangled web of tension, high-stakes decisions, and personal redemption arcs that could radically alter the trajectory of the season? Because that's precisely what's happening right now in Berea. Special teams? We seldom discuss them unless disaster strikes. Yet, for Cleveland, this often overlooked phase of the game could hold the key to transforming narrow defeats into clutch victories. And the name anchoring that conversation, Dustin Hopkins. In 2023, he was exceptional, 91 on field goals, a consistent, dependable, a true game changer. Fast forward to 2024, and suddenly that same kicker is converting only 66.7% of his attempts. Right on the outside, it seems like a collapse, but look closer and you'll see the ramifications are seismic. His struggles from long range, just 4 of 8 on kicks from 50 yards, forced Cleveland to adopt a conservative approach. Drives had to be extended, field position became paramount. Now, picture Hopkins rediscovering that 2023 form. Suddenly, Kevin Stefanski has options. Suddenly, those midfield field goals morph into genuine scoring opportunities. Suddenly, tight contests start breaking Cleveland's way. And in a division as ruthless as the AFC North, that razor-thin margin could be the difference between a 9-8 record and a playoff berth. But it's not only special teams that are under scrutiny. The Browns' quarterback situation reads more like a high-stakes drama than a simple depth chart. Joe Flacco, yes, that Joe Flacco is once again in the spotlight, not because of his stat line. During OTA, he was asked if he'd be willing to mentor the Browns' young quarterbacks, specifically rookie Shadur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. Instead of embracing the mentor label, Flacco bristled, calling it a trap question. He framed it as a challenge to his own competitive nature, arguing that acknowledging such a role would imply he's surrendering the starting job. To be fair, Flacco never said he wouldn't help. He insisted he'd lead by example, that the younger players would learn from observing him. But that nuance was lost on fans and analysts alike. Chris Canty, who once shared a locker room with Flacco in Baltimore, didn't mince words. He underscored the importance of mentoring young players, not as a gesture, but as a catalyst for collective success. Stronger backups, sharper practices, better results. What's compelling is that Flacco's career has often revolved around this exact dynamic. He started over Lamar Jackson in 2018. He was the seasoned veteran for Drew Lock, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, and Anthony Richardson. The pattern is undeniable, yet the outcomes have been mixed at best. Now, with Deshaun Watson's situation still a lingering enigma and Kenny Pickett vying for a starting role, Flacco's stance isn't just a matter of locker room politics, it's a question of the Browns' identity. Will they embrace competition and unity or fracture under the weight of ego and uncertainty? Uncertainty. Naturally, no discussion about the Browns would be complete without mentioning the man who embodies their defense, Myles Garrett. Earlier this offseason, Garrett shocked the franchise with a trade request. He was frustrated, weary of losing, and tired of empty promises. He wanted out, but instead of bidding farewell to their defensive cornerstone, the Browns made a bold franchise-altering decision on you 4-year. $160 million extension with $123.05 million guaranteed and a no-trade clause. Instantly, Garrett became the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. It worked. He stayed. Yet his absence from voluntary OTA sessions has reignited controversy. Some fans are disappointed. Others recall that he skipped OTAs last year too, and the year before. Did it hamper his performance? Not in the slightest. He was a defensive player of the year. So is the criticism warranted? Analyst Matt Fontana doesn't think so. He argues that Garrett's on-field dominance speaks louder than any offseason attendant. When do a player's results outweigh their process? Garrett has earned the benefit of the doubt. He's a game changer, a locker room leader, and with Mason Graham, the talented defensive tackle from the draft, now joining the fold, even Garrett's distant presence carries enormous weight. In a division this unforgiving, every rep matters, every OTA snap, every film session, every leadership moment, fans feel that, they see it. So what's the bottom line? The Browns aren't a team without talent, and they've got blue-chip defenders, intriguing quarterback prospects, and a kicker who, if he bounces back, could be the team's unsung MVP. But the real story here is about crossroads. Every key storyline, from the quarterback room to the pass rush to the kicking game, hinges on decisions made in the coming months. And those decisions won't just shape this season. They'll define the Browns' trajectory for years to come. So now it's your turn, Browns fans. What do you make of Joe Flacco's attitude toward mentoring? Should Dustin Hopkins still be trusted with long-range kicks? Is Myles Garrett's OTA absence just noise or something deeper? Let me know in the comments below, because here's the truth. These aren't just side plots. They're the pulse of the season. When a franchise seeks to forge a new identity in one of the NFL's toughest divisions, every choice, every personality, every puzzle piece matters. If he regains even a fraction of his 2023 form, suddenly Kevin Stefanski doesn't have to punt from the 35-yard line. Suddenly that 4th and 5 at the 38 becomes a field goal attempt instead of a momentum killer. It changes how you call a game. It changes your level of aggression. It injects confidence, not just in the offense, but in the entire team, knowing you can rely on your kicker from range. That's not theoretical, that's tactical. That's strategic. And in a division where margins are razor thin, it could determine who's playing in January and who's watching from the couch. Then you look at Joe Flacco and it's easy to appreciate both sides. You respect the fire, the competitiveness, the refusal to just accept a mentor label. But in the same breath, you hope he becomes that seasoned voice who fosters unity and guidance in a quarterback room that's still evolving. Shadur Sanders is electric but raw. Dylan Gabriel has tools but needs refinement. These aren't just camp arms. They're potential futures, and whether Flacco embraces that responsibility could shape how quickly those futures unfold. And then there's Myles Garrett. He is the Cleveland Browns defense. You don't hand a man $160 million with $123.05 million guaranteed unless you believe he's the anchor, the tone setter. So when he skips out A's, yes, it raises eyebrows. But Garrett's earned his leash. He's delivered every time he's been called on, and with Mason Graham now in the mix, this defensive front is poised to be nasty, disruptive, and relentless. The foundation is there, but it all comes down to how tight-knit this group becomes when the bullets start flying in September. So, Browns fans, with all this on the table, Hopkins' redemption, Flacco's leadership, Garrett's autonomy, where do you stand? What excites you most? What concerns you? Let us know in the comments below, because this season promises to be a wild ride. What if I told you the most intriguing storyline emerging from the Browns OTA sessions isn't about Deshaun Watson's shoulder or Jim Schwartz's defensive strategies? What if I told you the biggest buzz in Browns training camp now centers around a quarterback who isn't even projected to start, yet he's already turning heads?
Yeah.
From Sports Illustrated to the diehard fans filling the stands. Browns fans, buckle up, because what's unfolding this offseason could mark the dawn of a brand new era in Cleveland football history. And it all begins with Shadur Sanders. But before we dive deeper, hit that like button if you've been a loyal Browns fan for over 2 decades. It's incredible to see supporters of all generations here, some who even witnessed the team's inaugural game. Maximum respect. And hey, drop a comment like, let's go Browns, let's go to the Super Bowl. Rookie quarterback Shadur Sanders has been raising eyebrows. It's not just his spiraling velocity or his increasingly refined mechanics. It's the way he's commanding attention in a quarterback room already stacked with veterans and emerging talents. Sports Illustrated couldn't ignore it. They highlighted that Sanders' progress is undeniable. In just a month, he's shifted the dynamics of the Browns quarterback competition. Kevin Stefanski, ever the advocate of a level playing field, might joke that every quarterback is getting a fair shot, but seasoned observers can sense it. Shadur Sanders is making a name for himself. And let's be real, even if you're not yet sold on Sanders as the Browns' next franchise quarterback, you can't deny his immense potential. This is a guy who was recently projected as a potential 1 overall draft pick. Let's pivot for a moment. And according to insider Jordan Schultz, the Pittsburgh Steelers are aggressively pursuing a new offensive guard. This isn't just another offseason rumor. It's got serious momentum. The top name on their radar, Kyle Pitts, the former top 5 pick from the Atlanta Falcons. While Atlanta hasn't openly advertised Pitts as available, they're reportedly open to trade talks, especially for a day 2 draft selection like a 2nd or 3rd rounder. On paper, Kyle Pitts brings undeniable star power. He was a revelation at Florida in his rookie season. Racking up over 1,000 receiving yards showcased his explosive upside, but since then that spark has dimmed. Concerns linger that he hasn't lived up to the lofty expectations. He's no longer the dominant contested catch specialist or the precise route runner scouts once drooled over. And while his physical tools remain elite, the harsh reality is that after 4 NFL seasons, that potential feels more hypothetical than substantive. The Steelers already have a tight end group led by Pat Freiermuth, reliable, sure-handed, and a dependable possession receiver. Does it make sense to bring in Pitts, whose skill set overlaps heavily with Freiermuth's? That's where this trade buzz starts to lose steam. Plus, there's the looming necessity to extend Pitt's contract. He's entering the final year of his rookie deal. Any trade would require not just draft capital, but also a sizable new contract. Instead, there's increasing chatter around another name, Jonnu Smith. This isn't mere speculation. Smith thrived under Arthur Smith in Atlanta, especially in screen-heavy packages that maximized his yards after catch ability. He's not just more dynamic with the ball than Pitts. He also delivered a more productive 2023 season. Plus, he offers a different skill set than Freiermuth. Adding diversity rather than redundancy, Smith would perfectly complement the Steelers' vision of deploying heavy 12 or 13 personnel sets. More tight ends on the field, aligning seamlessly with Arthur Smith's system. Right now, Freiermuth is solid. Darnell Washington is an exceptional blocker. Beyond them, however, depth is suspect. Connor Hayward and others simply can't consistently anchor the position. But this potential acquisition raises a serious financial question. Do the Steelers really want to invest heavily in 2 tight ends? Freiermuth is already among the NFL's highest paid tight ends at over $12 million annually. Smith, coming off a Pro Bowl season, is likely seeking $15 million per year. That's nearly $30 million tied up in one position group. A risky financial proposition unless both players are featured prominently and productively. Creative formations and strategic usage would be absolutely essential. But the Steelers' search for playmakers doesn't end there. Rumors continue to swirl about their interest in Trey Palmer, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' lightning-fast wideout. This 24-year-old speedster, a 6th-rounder out of Nebraska, boasts a legit 4.3-second 40-yard dash, one of the fastest in the league. Palmer's greatest appeal, his field-stretching speed that forces defenses to respect the deep ball. He's not a contested catch maven, and his hands remain a concern, but he can instantly change the geometry of a defense. But in an offense that thrives on creating space and yards after the catch, his knack for stacking corners and blazing past defenders on deep crossers is an alluring asset. He's also a surprisingly tenacious run blocker, a quality that Arthur Smith values immensely. With Tampa Bay drafting 2 new receivers, Palmer might not survive the final roster cuts, opening the door for Pittsburgh to swoop in. A simple late-round pick swap could be enough to bring him aboard. Palmer isn't the only name in the conversation. John Mechie has emerged as another potential fit, a young, cost-effective receiver who excels at route running and boasts reliable hands. But if the Steelers are truly going all in, there's one more development that can't be overlooked. The looming presence of Aaron Rodgers. There's growing speculation that Rodgers will sign with the Steelers before the June 10th mandatory minicamp. If that happens, veteran wideouts like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen, both reportedly hesitant to commit without clarity on the quarterback position, could suddenly become viable targets. Aaron Rodgers under center targeting George Pickens, Cooper, Allen with Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, creating matchup nightmares in tight end sets, and Trey Palmer stretching defenses vertically. That's an offense engineered to win now, to chase a championship. With Cam Hayward's illustrious career nearing its twilight, the urgency is palpable. Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have made it clear. The time to win is now. But with all these potential moves, from targeting Pitts or Smith to considering Palmer, Cooper, or Allen, the question remains, which acquisition makes the most sense for the Steelers right now? Steelers Nation, let me know your thoughts. Should Pittsburgh go all in on Jonnu Smith, pursue Kyle Pitts, or prioritize acquiring a dynamic wide receiver? Let's dissect this evolving situation, because the decisions made in the coming weeks could define the Steelers' 2025 season and potentially shape the legacy of this front office under Omar Khan. Starting with Jonnu Smith, it's important to understand why he's more than just a convenient fit. He's a strategic chess piece. Smith brings athleticism, versatility, and a proven track record under Arthur Smith's system. If the Steelers are serious about playing significant snaps in 12 and 13 personnel, they can't rely solely on Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Jonnu's presence allows Pittsburgh to diversify its tight end usage. He's not just a blocker or a possession target. He can line up in the backfield, motion into the slot, and become a screen threat at any time. And this isn't just theory. In 2023, Jonnu Smith thrived in those roles with the Falcons, even earning a Pro Bowl selection proof that he's still a dynamic contributor. The goal here isn't redundancy, but versatility. Smith brings a unique dimension compared to Freiermuth, and that contrast could make Pittsburgh's offense far more unpredictable. But there's still that looming price tag. If Pittsburgh does trade for Smith, they'll have to pay him.
Yeah.
And that raises the critical strategic question. Can you justify investing nearly $30 million annually at tight end in today's NFL? If you're building a smash mouth offense that leans heavily on tight ends, the answer might be yes, but it's a gamble. If Arthur Smith's scheme falters or the team fails to deploy both Smith and Freiermuth creatively, this could become an expensive mistake. Fans still remember previous splurges on certain positions that failed to deliver value. The front office has to be absolutely certain. Shifting gears, let's revisit the wide receiver room. This remains Pittsburgh's most glaring weakness. Beyond George Pickens, who has emerged as a legitimate no, one target, the depth chart is thin. Calvin Austin, has electrifying speed, but is undersized and inconsistent. Van Jefferson is a scheme fit, but lacks game-breaking ability. Robert Woods brings veteran savvy, but is likely past his. That's why Trey Palmer becomes such a tantalizing option. Young, cheap, and armed with game-changing speed that none of the current receivers can match. Imagine a defense trying to handle both Pickens' physicality and Palmer's explosiveness. It forces secondaries to play honest, opening up the middle of the field for tight ends and running backs. That vertical and horizontal stretch creates opportunities everywhere. And while his hands remain a concern, yes, he's had some drops and fumbles. His upside is undeniable, especially when you consider that Tampa Bay's draft moves have made him expendable. This is the kind of low-risk, high-reward move that shrewd front offices love to pounce on. Palmer is under team control for 2 more years and carries a negligible cap hit in today's NFL. That's a bargain. So here's the final question. Steelers-Nets. If Pittsburgh makes only one move before minicamp, what should it be? Go all in on Jonnu Smith to double down on tight end versatility, roll the dice on Kyle Pitts' upside, or swing for the fences on a receiver like Palmer. Thank you guys. See you next video.